Hello everyone, it's I, Mr. Big T Anderson, and today we're doing Juxtapose by Taste Without Talent. So, if you're new here, links down below to the author's page as well as the story page. If you like what they do, you can give them a read, you can give them a good review. If you like what I do, leave a comment here. And with that, let's begin. It's somewhat difficult to watch Otawara play. It's not that he's playing poorly. In actual fact, his playstyle seems completely unaffected by the frills on the apron he's wearing, or the elastic of the stockings around his thighs, or the heels on the shoes on his feet. It's just that for whatever indecency Otawara regularly commits during Ojo's practices, and there are many occasions Takami can call to mind, somehow an absence of clothing is more tolerable to bear than the juxtaposition of the maid outfit he's currently wearing and his typical behavior. Maybe we should call off the penalty game? Takami suggested, in an undertone to Shoji, who is still considering Otawara with remarkable dignity. It's only the more impressive for how unpleasant the sight itself is. Takami is flinching with preemptive embarrassment for Sakuraba, who has yet to emerge from the changing room where he and Otawara were rushed at the start of public practice. I'm sure we can work out an alternate payment for the loss of the screams cut him off, though. There's a tide of them, a rising wail of excitement, pointedly feminine in tone. Takami loses the train of thought for the piercing whine of the sound, all his attention brought swinging around to determine the cause of the agonizingly shrill note being hit by every female voice within 50 meters. Then he sees Sakuraba, and every thought in his head evaporates at once. The maid outfit looks better on Sakuraba than it does on Otawara. Much better. Much better. Sakuraba is walking stiffly, his hands curled into fists at his side and his cheeks flushed with embarrassment. But even so, his strides are even, the heels of his shoes hitting the ground with a rhythm Takami imagines he can hear even over the girlish screams emanating from all around them. The sash of the apron is cinched tight around the narrowest point of Sakuraba's waist. The ruffles at the shoulders only serve to make him look even broader than he is, and with each step he takes his hips sway by an inch, his gait forced into a more rhythmic motion than usual by the heels of his shoes, bad enough that the sleeves fit tight against the line of his biceps, bad enough that his hair is ruffling gold against the lacy cap. But then Takami's gaze makes it past the edge of the skirt, and he sees Sakuraba's legs, and all the air still in his lungs leaves his chest in a groan thankfully inaudible under the crescendo of excitement from the rest of Sakuraba's audience. Sakuraba has nice legs. Sakuraba has very nice legs. Takami has known this for years. He spent more than a little time admiring them in the magazine spreads he used to buy from the convenience store, and much more recently from the more personal perspective hands-on experience, but between the black straps of shoes and the ruffled edge of the skirt, Sakuraba's legs seem to go on forever. Clean lines interrupted by the only edge of the stocking clinging halfway up to the flex of the thigh. There's a scant inch of skin left bare between the hem of the skirt and the top of the stocking, and Takami, as her classmates admire this particular phenomenon with respect to girls, but he's never before understood that appeal quite so thoroughly. Even the flex of Sakuraba's calves, enforced by the heels of his shoes, is enough to draw Takami's attention down for more than a few seconds. His eyes are caught in that gap of skin, his lips parted on the desire to press his mouth against the span and mark that bruised-in shape of his lips. The shouting is continuing, though. Takami is aware distantly, and the shrieking from the girls giving way to more masculine jeers and shouting. He sees Sakuraba turn, his eyes going wide on panic, as a football flies towards him, sees his hand come up instinctively to catch the familiar shape of it. Sakuraba looks overwhelmed, is yelling something, a plea for mercy from the wave of footballs being thrown at him, maybe. But Takami can't still focus, except for the rumple of Sakuraba's skirt against his thighs when he shifts. His imagination is reeling, throwing up images too fast for him to process, his mouth against the texture, the skirt pushed up against his hips, but whatever he's wearing underneath. Those legs wrapped around his waist, the fingers digging in the hair. Takami has no idea what face he's making, no conception of how obvious the heat in his eyes must be. He can barely think to breathe, has no hope at all of pulling himself back into composure. And then the toss comes. Takami doesn't even see it where it comes from. He's not watching the audience. Whoever threw it must have intended it as a joke. Anyway, from the absurd height of the arc, it's cutting through the air. It's high above the first wave of tosses that came through. Standing outlined is a clear shadow against the bright of the sky, and Takami can see Sakuraba notice it. Can see his head snap up to track the arc of the ball through the air. Takami hisses a sharp inhale, anticipation crystalline on his tongue and aching in his chest, and jumps, his entire body arcing up into a long, perfect silhouette against the sky. His arms come up into the air, his head tilts back to track the ball, and for just a moment, he isn't seeing anything at all of what he's wearing. Doesn't care whether it's a skirt or a football uniform or the plain t-shirt he wears when they're doing extra practice in the evenings. It's just Sakuraba, haloed into perfection against the sky, and all the breath leaves Takami's lungs at the same time that he loses his grip on the clipboard in his hands. It falls to his feet, smacks audibly against the ground. Still, Takami can't look away, can't blink his vision clear of the after image of Sakuraba printed against the sky. Here comes a voice, and something hits Takami's chest with enough force he lifts a hand to catch it. Even before he can collect himself to look away from where Sakuraba is landing from his jump, Soji's pressing the clipboard back against his chest, eyeing him with the same unreadable expression he wore for Otawara. "You feeling all right, Takami? You look flushed." Yeah. Yes, of course, I'm fine. He tightens his fingers on the clipboard as his cheeks go darker, self-consciousness stepping in to take over where the breathless heat of desire ends. He ducks his head and moves away to another part of the field where he has less of an audience for the tremor he can't stop from quivering in his hands. He doesn't manage to take many notes for the rest of the practice. So, obviously, this is, for those who didn't know, Eyeshield 21, so hopefully you enjoyed it. Once again, this is Taste Without Talent's work. If you enjoyed it, links down below. If you enjoyed how I did it, comment down below. I'm gonna go and probably rest. Bye-bye for now.